Friday, March 31st, 2023 at 12:26 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. This is Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. Alright, so I don't know how long it'll take the supercomputers to run diagnostics on all of the helicopters here in the U.S. Probably be helpful if some of the military leadership are willing to input the elevations of their tarmacs, if there's a standardized prompt for that. So a little bit more intel for the supercomputers. When I went to Florida, I did not have a landline available to me, and even it gets difficult in people's houses with landlines because it looks very suspicious with everyone having cell phones. It looks very suspicious when you pick up someone's landline and start making random phone calls. Okay, it's just not a socially acceptable thing. I've done it in the past. I've snuck away with a wireless landline phone and made some calls to verify and establish ground communication, but if you get caught, and then most of these things have caller ID so they can look back and see what calls were made, and they'll say who made this call, and also they usually shows up on their bill. These are the phone calls that were made from your house, which is why the coolers maybe don't have a landline anymore, but they do have vehicles that could be connected to GPS via satellite or otherwise, and one of those vehicles stays in Florida as a reference point all year. So that being said, for the intel, when we drove to St. Petersburg, we drove across a bridge on an interstate. Across the bay, we drove across the bay on a bridge. It went up pretty high. In one of the vehicle, in the Lincoln, I think it was. And I visually verified that a jet fighter plane, I don't know, I'm not good with the models and makes, flew almost directly overhead as we reached the apex of the bridge. It was probably about 500 feet above us. It's hard to judge. With the helicopter, I was on the beach and I was at basically sea level and I could see how far it was hovering. I don't know with this jet. It was difficult to see. I was sitting in the back seat. So the bridge is, however, high off of sea level. Then the jet was probably around 500 feet higher than that. But if it pinged my phone or the Lincoln's nav or anything like that, you should have a reference point for these jet fighters and their similar computer systems. So once you've ran diagnostics on all the choppers, all the helicopters with similar computer systems, I would recommend going over the jet fighters. We haven't had a crash involving them, and what I can remember, but it wouldn't hurt to go over those as well because they're similar to the commercial airliners that I'll be flying in the next couple months. So that's my intel from Florida for the supercomputers, and that's a reference point. And yeah, so speaking of commercial airliners and my idea for electric vehicles, first of all, I want to talk about my flight to Seattle. I made a note. What if the airlines could help with a mapping system like what I proposed in my podcast? If I was CEO of Google, I don't think Google is going to hire me. A mapping system where individual people can map out sustainable energy infrastructure on the continental United States, right? I'm going to put a solar panel and a battery array here. What does that do? What's the next most intelligent place to put a solar array to build a smart, sustainable infrastructure, so on and so forth, or put a generator or whatever. So I want to develop this mapping system. I don't think Google, profit-driven Google, is going to do it, invest in it. So what if we could work with the airlines, right? I propose in the book Fem Party, this group of people called airspacers that are arguing that airlines should have to pay a levy or a tax or a fee for flying over people's properties. It's property rights. It's basically saying we own the airspace above our property. People that have satellite systems like Elon Musk would have to pay if their satellites went over their property. So these airspacers, we say we want that system. We want the airlines to develop the best mapping system in the continental United States, involving streets, right down the streets, the parcel of land, everything, so that we can accurately tell if these flight paths go over our properties. But we'll waive the tax levy, we'll waive it if you allow us an open source access to this mapping system and help develop the sustainable infrastructure, green infrastructure design of the mapping system. So we'll waive it for 20 or 50 years until, and then the airlines can put it to the people that own the satellites that they have to lease and say, well, you have to pay the levies too, and maybe they'll help with the mapping system as well. So that was my thought. What if we could get the airlines to help develop this mapping system by demanding our right to own the airspace above our property, right? Or at least demanding that people that fly things over our property have to compensate us in some small way, whether it's pennies or dollars. We waive that. We say we'll take and trade. You help us develop this mapping system and help us figure out the smartest way to build sustainable infrastructure. It looks good for the airlines, looks good for their sustainability plans. And let's face it, it would take the United States 20 years if we went hard at it to get anywhere near the rail coverage that Europe has, right? And when we have rugged terrain, so does Europe, but we're stuck with airlines for a long time. We have the highway system. I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in rail infrastructure, especially with all these derailments and stuff, but let's work with what we can to make it as green as possible. So that's what I'm saying. A electric car company that doesn't have to, we don't have to manufacture the cars ourselves, but it's a car and an auto club, right? Americans own 2, 3, 4, some own 10 cars. So you can have your hot rod that runs on gas, and you can have your hot rod that runs on electric, and you can have your truck and your SUV. But what if we had one car, one electric vehicle that we commission to make? It's part of this auto club. It's the same design. We lock in the design. It has a stainless steel frame for driving in the north where there's salt and snow, right? It's going to last 50 years. It has the same body design year after year after year. It has no Wi-Fi, no wireless capabilities. It's just straight instruments, right? You can hook your phone up to the GPS if you want GPS. Very little computer systems, the minimal computer systems in the electric car as needed. Mostly manually functioning. No autonomous or semi-autonomous features. We're part of this club. It's a sedan or whatever. They all look the same. There's different colors, blue, green, whatever. We buy property at the airlines, or we work with the airlines to develop property near the airport. You're part of this club. You drive that vehicle however much, however often, and it's basically kind of like leasing it, the vehicle. If you go on a trip, you utilize the airline. The electric vehicle, you can't go on a long road trip. It's extending the range of the electric vehicles. You're going to go on a trip to San Francisco. Well, you can use the computer system, the online platform for the Auto Club, and you book your trip and line up a vehicle there. You come in at the same time. People from other places are once you've locked that in, are vying to rent your vehicle. But there's no rental fee. You just pay the club fee. It's built into your payment plan for your car. And that could include replacement of batteries after so many miles and so on and so forth. You drive to the airport. You drop off your car. You get on the plane. You fly to San Francisco. Your car gets detailed and gets released to the people that just flew into Pittsburgh Airport for the week. Now maybe they're staying 7 days or 10 days, and you're only staying 7 in San Francisco. You get to San Francisco, a car is waiting for you, it's detailed, you have it for 7 days. When you come back to Pittsburgh, those people still have your car for 3 more days. They had it for 10 days. So there are extra cars parked on this property, this rental car property, that are available for this scenario. And you get a different car other than the one you're used to, one you drive the most, for 3 days. And when that person in Pittsburgh that has your car returns it to the rental car, we have a staff, the car gets detailed, they drive your car out to your house, swap it for the extra car that they drive back to the lot. It's all easy peasy, taken care of. When you get to the airport, there's a car waiting for you, and if it's not your car, it'll get returned right to your property or your place of work or however that's lined up. It's all accessible through the app, through the website. That's all coordinating all over the country to line up these electric vehicles so that you fly 2,000 miles in an airplane and then you have an electric vehicle to get you around the last couple hundred miles. So that's the idea. It's an auto club, and we say we want cars that last 50 years. So we're going to have the same vehicle built and create this auto club so that we can travel anywhere in the country, jump and have a car ready for us. And I think it could catch on. I think people would subscribe to that, especially millennials that, you know, don't want to drive that often. You know, they might be more open. There could be an option where you lease the car out as a ride share or something in the other when you're not using it at the airport, and then you just get it, and that way you wouldn't have to pay for parking at your house. There's tons of options out there. That's my proposal. So we have, even if the auto club never happens, which Tesla nixed that in my book, that's why I go off and do it on my own. Even if the auto club doesn't happen, we should have a mapping system where we can plan out a sustainable, the smartest, most intelligent, most thought out, most directly democratic. The people put in their own money, but they have the vote on how this is developed, this sustainable infrastructure, and build it in this country, and then hopefully other countries can adopt it too. We need the mapping system. Maybe the airlines will help and put pressure on the satellite systems that they utilize. Again, I hope the supercomputers are running those diagnostics for the military, if they can, if they have access to that kind of top secret data network, which may be difficult, but I'm sure the government has a few supercomputers online. And again, if I designed the system, I would have all flying aircraft pilot flown, and they would be self-contained. They would use the instruments, the radar, the sonar, the altimeter would all be self-contained. It wouldn't rely on a link up to a private satellite system or a military satellite system, or Wi-Fi on the ground. It would all be self-contained in the machine, and we would rely on the human pilots to get us from point A to B, or to strike a military target, or however you want to word that. But that may not be how the geniuses in Washington and the geniuses engineers at Lockheed Martin and all these other companies decided to design it. They might have convinced the military leadership that you want an interconnected military system. So that's why I appealed to the supercomputers to use my knowledge of visually verifying some of these machines and try to rectify, in case this helicopter crash was, any pilot will tell you if you can't count on your instruments, then you're screwed. So I'm trying to set some pilots' minds at ease. These supercomputers, they want a military that fights for freedom and democracy, but true direct democracy, things like that. So we're there, we're getting there. The other thing I wanted to say, if you do send a phone to my address for the program, where you pay me $230 a day, I would definitely request that it has a impact resistant case, waterproof case on that phone, for obvious reasons. We want to take every precaution to make this phone that I have last as long as possible, and any subsequent phones that are distributed or bought by military government personnel. Thanks for watching. Join me next week when I talk about something else. I'll come up with something good. So thanks for watching.